Hare Krishna. So we're going to start from verse 9 today. Yagnartat karmanonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartam karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. So work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction. And in that way, you will always remain free from bondage. So how do we remain free from bondage? So we should remember that every action that we do results in bondage, right? Every action results in a karma phala. Every karma has a phala, has a fruit, right? And every fruit binds us, whether it is good or bad, right? Both good and bad fruits bind us in this material world. So Krishna is now telling the secret for working in such a way that we will not be bound by any phala, by any karma phala. So here he's saying that work must be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Work should not be done for our sense gratification. Work should be done as a satisfaction as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Otherwise, work causes bondage. So if we are working, but we are not doing it as a sacrifice for Vishnu, then that work causes bondage. Okay. So we should do our duties for Krishna's satisfaction. So how many of us do our work for Krishna's satisfaction, and how many of us do work for our own satisfaction? Right? So everybody in this material, they will say, I don't like this work, or I want to change my work because I don't like this. No, because everything is just centered around me, I and me. Now, if we work anything, doing anything in this material world, if we do with this mentality saying that it's for me, it's for my enjoyment, then that work results in bondage. That actually Shastra says if a robber or if a murderer, he commits murder, but he is not attached to the his action, he will not get karma phala. Of course, you won't find a murderer who is not attached to his karma, to his action. But theoretically, we can do anything as long as our consciousness is, as long as we are not attached to the work. Of course, that doesn't mean that we end up doing adharma, but just to say that, whatever we are doing, we should not have any attachment for that work, and we should do it for Krishna's satisfaction, Vishnu's satisfaction, right? If we don't do it for Vishnu's satisfaction, then such work results in bondage. And bondage means that it is good phala, bad phala, then there is reaction to it, and then there is suffering, right? We can avoid all that. All that we need to do is we have to do work should be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Now you might ask, okay, how do I do work as a satisfy for his satisfaction? Now, previously the Varnashrama, the whole Varnashrama system of, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, we discussed this sometime back. This 4 Varnas, if we know our nature, whether we are a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and we engage in corresponding activity, then that work will not result in any bondage, because we will be naturally in that Varnashrama system. People were trained to work for the satisfaction of Vishnu. They know that just engaging in their own occupation pleases Vishnu without expecting results. If you engage in our occupation, that pleases Vishnu. So previously, people generally, they knew how to work. So they used to engage in their work just as much as required, right? Like, what is the aim of work? Actually, Bhagavatam speaks very nicely about goal of work. What should we try to accomplish with our work? Actually, it says that no, so few things actually. Let me see if I can pull that out. Actually, it's very nice. Just give me a moment. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, got it. Okay, so let me spend some time on this. Is interesting actually. Supreme occupation. Okay, if somebody has Bhagavatam, you can refer to Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 6 onwards. Okay, so I'll just read the verses also. It's very nice. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti ratokshje ahitukiya pratyahata yayatma suprasidati. Supreme occupation for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Next verse. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janattashu Vairagyam Gnanam Cha Tiyadahaitukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality, supreme personality of Godhead, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and a detachment from the world. Okay. Now, the occupational activities a man performs according to his position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of personality of Godhead. All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to the sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification. Life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation. Since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's works. I'm going to read it again. Okay. So please make a note. So there are some very important points here. First is whatever occupation that we do, it should allow us to develop an attachment or attraction to the message of that Krishna is giving, right? That means that we should actually develop, it should allow, if we don't develop attraction to the message of Krishna, then such an occupation is useless. So which means that if you're in an occupation which doesn't give you any time to engage in bhakti, you should think about your work, right? Because even if that work is giving you money, that's not going to help you actually achieve the real goal of life, because it clearly says that life's desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only for a healthy life or self-preservation. Since human being is meant for inquiry about absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of one's works. So what should be the goal of one's work? Today, everybody is working. What is the goal? To earn money, to enjoy. This is the goal of everybody's work. But Krishna is saying that results in bondage. Bondage means suffering. Whenever I say bondage, please equate it with suffering, right? So what should we do? We should work in such a way that we don't work for sense gratification, number one. Number two, we only desire a healthy life. Just self-preservation. Okay, I want to be healthy, comfortable. Not that we should stay on the live on the street and live a comfortable life, right? Okay, wear decent clothes, all that, right? But the goal is not sense gratification. Goal is self-preservation, healthy life, self-preservation, right? And the real goal is actually to inquire about absolute truth. Athato Brahma Jignasa. So as a human being, now that we've got the human form of life, we should inquire into Brahman. We should understand who are we, who is the Lord, what is our relationship. This is called Sambandha Gnana. So we should understand the Sambandha Gnana. What is our Sambandha with the Lord? What is our relationship with the Lord? And then when we come to know that, okay, we are servants of Krishna, so we have to serve him, then we should have time to serve Krishna. Now, if our occupation doesn't give us time to serve Krishna, then such an occupation is useless, because it's actually taking us away from our goal, isn't it? Hmm? So our work should be such that we work only as much as required so that we can have self-preservation. So previously, in the previous ages, right, like people used to work, they used to engage in their occupation duty just for this, just so that they can earn their living, they can eat food, live comfortably without problem. That's it. Not like endless list of wants, and which just keeps growing. And there are companies also which produce all kinds of products, so we are always going behind one thing or the other all the time, right? Now, this is not the goal of life. That is sense gratification. Sense gratification is not the goal of life, just self-preservation. So previously people used to work only for 8 hours, right, with commutation, not without commutation, because they used to stay very next to their work normally, right? And then the remaining 16 hours in a day, they used to use very productively. If we talk about all these people will say productive means actually working hard, because the goal of life is to earn as much money as possible. And if you want to earn as much money as possible, the result is also going to be like that, as much karma as possible. Now, unfortunately, we're going to suffer. We suffer because of this karma, because we don't know what is right, what is wrong, unfortunately, especially in Kali Yuga. So we end up doing things which result in suffering. What is the use of such work? We might get money now, but if that's going to result in future suffering, what is the use of such money? Right? So every person has to work only for self-preservation. Money will come. See, we should understand one thing. Whatever is we are predetermined to get in this life, we will get. Actually, Bhagavatam says, Prahlad Maharaj says, saying that just like, like some distress comes to us without us seeking it, right? Are we seeking distress? And distress comes. Because when the time comes, distress will come. Similarly, when the time comes, happiness will also come. So we don't have to really break our heads over this. What we should really focus on is through my work, am I able to satisfy Vishnu or Krishna? So how do I satisfy Vishnu or Krishna? Simplest way is actually, if we can work directly for Krishna, then it's very good. If we cannot directly work for Krishna, then we should use our results, which is actually salary, in Krishna's service. And this is one of the major things that I did for a big part of when I was in my corporate career. I used to use reasonable amount of money in Krishna's service. Krishna is giving something, use part of it, use how much ever is required for your house maintenance responsibilities, etc. But whatever is excess, try to give it in Krishna's service. This is and by doing this, what happens is Lord is satisfied, right? And to the extent that we give, to that extent our earning is also purified. That means that we don't get karma phala to that extent. So if 10% we give, we don't get 10% karma phala. We get only the 90% karma phala, right? But the best thing is to actually work in a based on our nature, in the midst of devotees. All these are very difficult, right? So it's fine, if we are working. The other option is working for Krishna directly. We could do things, use our capabilities directly in service of Krishna, right? And somehow earn a living as well, if that is possible. Otherwise, we work whatever we are doing, but work limited, as in don't go overboard with work, right? Work should be okay, 8 hours, maybe 9-10 hours, that's it, right? Not beyond that, not which is like it's going to consume your consciousness. If work consumes your consciousness, then it won't be Krishna consciousness, then it will be work consciousness, isn't it? So we should be Krishna conscious while doing work, not work conscious all the time, right? So do as much as required, not more, only as much as required, and then use the result in Krishna service. Use the rest of the time, first get time for yourself, use the rest of the time for serving Krishna, right? So if we don't please Krishna through our work, then it results in bondage, right? So we should kind of limit our list of things that we want, right? Simple living, high thinking. Why simple living, high thinking? Actually, it makes it very easy. Sometimes I've seen many people going without work, and sometimes no salary for few months, etc. I mean, your life should be such that you should be able to go on without salary also for many months. It should be so simple, right? But we complicated, we have so much of commitments, this, that, and all that, it really, we can't think about not being without work for some time, right? Because we have so many commitments that we have brought onto ourselves. So as much as possible, just simple life, basic, whatever is required, self-preservation, healthy life. And Prabhupada used to say, eat healthily, right? You eat ghee, pure ghee, which unfortunately people today in Kali Yuga don't eat because they are afraid that it's going to cause some cholesterol or something, right? But pure ghee doesn't cause anything, actually. It's called nectar, amrita. Shastra says that it's amrita, it's nectar. It has so powerful that it can by itself rebuild organs, right? If properly treated. Um, I mean, eat ghee, eat dry fruits, eat healthy stuff, right? And these are all sattvic food. It's supposed to be eaten. Um, right? And live a happy life, right? Nobody's saying that you need to like trouble yourself or put you through inconvenience or too much of austerities. No, Krishna conscious life is very happy. Bhakti is very happy. It's susukam kartum avyayam, very happily done and easy to perform, right? So you use your earning to live a happy, comfortable life. Have enough time for yourself so that you can serve Krishna. That's the idea. Okay, verse 10. Sayagna prajasistva puro vacha prajapati anena prasavishyadvam yesa voistva kamaduk. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures, Brahma, sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, Be thou happy by this yagna, sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you everything desirable for living happily and achieving liberation. So, see here, when the creation, saying in the beginning of creation, so this whole world, the world when it was created, this material world, the idea was that when people were sent here to this material world, they were like, be thou happy by this yagna. You be happy by doing this yagna, sacrifice. What is the sacrifice? Offering to Krishna or Vishnu. And by doing that, you can live happily. See, even Shastra says that one should live happily. Nobody says that one should live in distress. But unfortunately, the way we are living life in Kali Yuga is distressful. But this is not actually the way we should be living. We should live happily. Right? Now, for us to live happily, we should think what is it that is required? Is money what is required for us to live happily? Right? Or are there other things that you should be looking at? So we should introspect about this. And Shastra says that we should do yagna. Now, we should understand what is this yagna. Yagna is means sacrifice. We should do something, sacrifice something for Krishna's pleasure. And in Kali Yuga, this yagna is Sankirtana yagna. Right? One should chant the holy names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it's called Sankirtana Yagna. We should chant in, congregation. People should come together and chant the holy names of Krishna. This is the yagna for this life. So what actually Krishna is saying here is saying that if you do Sankirtana yagna, then your life will be happy. You can be happy in this life. Right? But we should do Sankirtana yagna. If you don't do Sankirtana yagna, then we are not doing our basic duty actually. Because as living beings, when we were created, we were meant to actually do yagna. So we should do this yagna, right? And it is so simple. It's just no expenditure, nothing. You just sit in your house, husband, wife, children, parents, whatever, come together and chant the holy names of Krishna. Maybe 5 minutes in a day, evening, morning, whatever time suits for you. And also then chant the holy name, right, on your beats. That's it. It's so simple, right? And this actually fulfills our obligation in Kali Yuga, right? And actually our duty, and the Lord will be pleased by this. And if we do this, then we will automatically be happy. We will live happily. Right? And this is the happy formula for happiness. Just do sacrifice. Right? If we otherwise, if we are taking everything that nature is giving, we are taking air, water, sunlight, everything we are taking, but we are not giving anything in return. That sacrifice is the way by which we are actually offering something back as gratitude, right? So this Sankirtana Yagna is what is recommended for Kali Yuga. So we should do Sankirtana Yagna. We should chant the holy names of Krishna and thereby do that sacrifice which pleases Krishna. So this should be part of our daily activity, because this is all being discussed in Karma Yoga. As part of, we're doing so many things in the day. As part of our daily activity, we should have this Sankirtana Yagna. We should have this chanting. Like we have other things that we do on a daily basis. This is also daily activity that one has to do. And by doing this, we please Krishna. Now, Krishna is not saying here, saying that, leave your job, become a sannyasi. No. Saying do your work, do your duty, actually do duty without attachment for self-preservation, then get time so that you can engage in doing sacrifice, which is Sankirtana Yagna. Okay. Now, Krishna talks about what is called a cycle of yagna. Devan bhavayatane na te deva bhavayantu ha parasparam bhavayanta shreya paramapsyata. So the demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please you, and thus by cooperation between men and demigods, prosperity will reign. So this is a cycle of yagna. This is for every any, I mean, normal human being, ordinary human being has to do this yagna, right? Why he has to do yagna? Because when we do yagna, some kind of yagna, right, the demigods are pleased, and when they are pleased, they will cooperate with us and give us whatever we require. So for example, we should understand every aspect of this creation is under the control of a particular demigod. Administrators, they're assigned. Demigods are assigned administrators, assigned by the Supreme Lord, right? So like uh, Brahma, Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Surya, like this, right? They're all assigned administrators. They're called demigods, right? Yeah, as per Bhagavad Gita. Now, because they are in charge of various aspects of the creation, when we please them, how do they get pleased? When we do sacrifice. When we do sacrifice, so if we do Sankirtana Yagna, for example, then all of them are pleased. When all of them are pleased, they give us whatever is required so that we can live happily. Okay? So he says, by doing this yagna, these demigods are pleased. Now, next verse says, Istan bhogani bodeva dasyante yagna bhavitah tairdattana pradayibhyo yo bhunkte stena eva saha. In charge of various necessities of life, like I said, they are responsible for different departments. The demigods, being satisfied by the performance of yagna, will supply all necessities to you. So when they become satisfied with us, then they will supply our necessities. But he who enjoys such gifts without offering them to the demigods is certainly a thief. And of course, then if you are a thief, how can we have peace of mind? If you don't have peace of mind, how can we have happiness? Because the thief doesn't have peace of mind, right? He's always worried, oh, somebody's going to catch me. So no peace of mind, so thereby no happiness. So if we don't do our sacrifice, if we don't do the performance of sacrifice, the Sankirtan Yagna, then automatically even demigods are not pleased, right? And by doing this, automatically demigods are pleased. Of course, when we chant Hare Krishna mantra, Supreme Lord is pleased. When Supreme Lord is pleased, all the devatas are pleased, right? And then they will be pleased, and they will give us whatever is required for us for self-preservation, like we said, right? So they will take care of it, because they are administrative owners, right? They're responsible. So, but the important point is that we have to do yagna. If we don't do yagna, then, I mean, see, if those who don't do Sankirtan yagna, even as ordinary human beings, actually we have obligation to these demigods. We should actually do sacrifices to please them. But nobody in this Kali Yuga are doing any of this. And that is the reason why there's so much of suffering, because there is no dharmic life at all. Everything is around sense gratification. Nobody has sense about what obligations we have. Bhagavatam says, Bhutapta Nranam Bhutapta Nranam Pitranam Na Kinkaro Na Cha Runi Cha Rajan Sarvatmanaya Sharanam Charanyam Gato Mukundam Parihatya Kartam. So there are 6 types of obligations. So we should know that we have obligations as human beings. It's a responsible life, and we need to fulfill these obligations. But unfortunately, we don't know what these obligations, number one. We don't know how to fulfill them, number two. Right? So, and it's a big problem, because if we don't, then it results in sinful activity if we don't do our duty, right? Now, people in Kali Yuga are not aware of all this. Now, for that is why it's easy. If we become devotees and we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, all obligations are taken care. Because Sarvatmana Ya Sharanam Sharanyam, one who has completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord, he doesn't have any obligation. Right? So, but if we don't do our obligation, if we don't do these sacrifices, then we are in debt, we are indebted. And if we are indebted, then we have to come back again to this miserable material world. Okay, so this is very important verse. Yagna shishtasino asanto muchante sarva kilbishai bunjate te tvagam papam ye pachantyatma karanat. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. So those who eat food for their own enjoyment, they are eating only sin. Why Krishna is saying like this? That is because every living entity has a life. So when we are, of course, I mean, there's no mention about non-vegetarian here because Krishna talks about in the 9th chapter, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. So there is no recommendation to eat non-vegetarian. Now, even amongst, even if you're eating fruits and vegetables, it's not that just simply because one is vegetarian, one is living a pious life. No, even by eating vegetarian food, we are only eating sin, not just only non-vegetarian food. Now, vegetarian food, how is it eating only sin? Why non-vegetarian food is sin? Because animals are killed and we have not created those animals, so we don't have the right to kill those animals. And specifically, also even physically, we don't have the required teeth and in digestive system, etc., to be able to eat flesh. There's a very detailed discussion about this, right? But the point is, even if okay, 6 types of obligation. Okay. Bhutapta for other living entities, Drinam, human beings, Pitranam, forefathers, Bhutapta, Drinam, Pitranam, Na Kinkaro, to the society, and to, no, 1 second. Forefathers, demigods, I'm forgetting the words. Devarshi, Bhutapta, Deva Rishi, Rishis, demigods and Rishis. So demigods, Rishis, Deva, Devarshi, Deva, Rishi, Bhuta, Apta, Drinam, Pitranam. So Deva is demigods, Rishi sages, Bhuta is other living entities, Apta is our family and relatives, Drinam is human beings, all human beings, and Pitranam, forefathers. These are the 6 obligations. Okay, so I was talking about how vegetarian food is also sin because even plants and animals have life, and when we kill these plants and animals for eating, we are killing them. Now, obviously, the punishment is corresponding to the level of consciousness. So, if animals are killed, then the consciousness is higher than plants, so the punishment is also higher. But even plants have some consciousness. So, when we kill them, we are incurring some sin, right? But here is saying that we devotees are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food only which is offered first for sacrifice, which means that food which is offered to Krishna. So we should eat food only that food which is offered to Krishna. Why? What happens when food is offered to Krishna? Krishna takes away the sinful effects, right? And when we take the prasadam, then that prasadam now doesn't have any sin, which otherwise it was there because we had killed some living organisms. But now when we use those living organisms to actually please the Supreme Lord, that sin is gone. But when we kill somebody else for our own benefit, then there is sin. It's very easy to understand, right? Like if suppose say you have some property and we use that property for for the government or administrators, to fulfill their desire or their command, then it's okay. But if I take somebody else's property and use it for my benefit, then it's not okay, right? So I can't take that which is not mine. So, and these plants, trees, etc., these are not mine. Now when I take them, but when I offer it to the Supreme Lord, which all of it belongs to him, then there's no sin involved, right? But then if we take it for our own sense gratification, then there is sin involved. So when we offer to Krishna, all the sins are eliminated. Actually, this is it is said that this prasadam is so powerful. Prasadam is like an antiseptic or whatever, right? Like not septic. I'm not getting that word right. Basically, when there is some disease or like vaccination, for example, in the current scheme of things, right?
Antibiotic.
Not antibiotic, whatever, right? Like basically, the idea is that it takes away the contamination. Antiseptic only in some sense, but anyway, there's some other word I'm not getting it. So it actually takes away all the contamination that is there, right? And all our suffering is because of our previous contamination, our propensity to sin, etc., etc., right? So when we eat food, we become purified. There's also one verse here which says, where it says, I don't know, maybe in the previous chapter. Sattva Shuddhi, Dhruva Smriti. I can't remember. So there's some verse which says that, by eating, here it's there. Ahara Shuddhau, Sattva Shuddhi, Sattva Shuddhau, Dhruva Smriti, Smriti Lambe, Sarva Granthi Nam Vipramokshaha. By performance of yagna, one's eatables become sanctified. By eating sanctified foodstuff, antidote, possibly poison, by eating sanctified foodstuff, one's very existence becomes purified. By purification of existence, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified. And when memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation. So I'm reading this again. By performance of yagna, one's eatables become sanctified. So when we offer food to Krishna, eatables become sanctified. Then by eating sanctified food, one's very existence becomes purified. That means that all our sinful reactions go away. By the purification of existence, finer tissues in the mind, brain, right, memory, they become sanctified. When memory is sanctified, one can think about the path of liberation. Now, this is very interesting, right? Now, if you don't eat, verse number is to 3.11. So if you don't eat prasadam, then what happens is that you are contaminated because you're eating food from outside, and this food from outside contaminates our consciousness because the food is in the mode of passion, ignorance. Accordingly, we develop the consciousness because food drives consciousness, right? So if we eat food which is offered to Krishna, then it is in Shuddha Sattva. So which means that there is no contamination. If there is no contamination, then we can actually think about the pure, right, which is the Supreme Lord and the path to reach him. But if we are only engaged in passion, eating food in passion and ignorance, then our nature also becomes like that, right? We are continuously engaged in work, we are busy, or we are ignorant, we drink, we do this, that, all that, whatever happens in the whole world. This is all because people are generally in passion and ignorance. But if you are living life in passion and ignorance, if you are eating food which is in passion and ignorance, we live in passion and ignorance. How can you think about the Supreme Lord who is not in passion and ignorance? Supreme Lord is Shuddha Sattva. He is above goodness. So only when we eat this sanctified food, prasadam, then we will develop an aptitude, interest to actually think about Krishna, think about path of liberation, think about reading scriptures. All this will come only when, I mean, of course, um, without also you will have some propensities to, read scriptures, hear Bhagavata, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, etc. But when we start consuming more prasadam, we become sanctified. Then mind also becomes clear, pure, stable, fixed, desiring to read shastra, live life according to that. So all this also becomes very natural for us, right? But if we are eating foods in mode of passion and ignorance, it becomes very difficult to progress in bhakti. And of course, I mean, if you're eating food which is not offered to Krishna, then apart from not progressing in bhakti, we are also accumulating sins to suffer in our next life. That is why devotees don't eat anything which is not offered to Krishna. And it's not very difficult. I mean, initially it might seem like, oh, it's so difficult to practice these things, but it's not. Absolutely not. I mean, I used to travel to weird places, with for 3-4 days without, I mean, very easily managing taking food from house. I mean, anyway, nowadays nobody needs to travel anyway, thanks to Corona. But right, generally, it's not very difficult to take your own food, cook your own food, make arrangements such that you don't have to eat outside food. Initially, it might seem challenging, but it's not, and it is for our own good that we are doing. It's not for somebody else, right? And this is the supreme most. This is one of the amongst the different sacrifices. So one is Sankirtana. The other sacrifice is this food sacrifice. Offer food to Krishna, right? Why is it a sacrifice? Because we are giving up our normal propensities to sense gratify, right? So it's a sacrifice. We are sacrificing our natural propensity to sense gratify ourselves and try to please Krishna. So this is the most important part of, one of the foundational aspects of Krishna Bhakti. If anybody wants to progress, wants to understand Krishna, wants to develop a relationship with Krishna, wants to do bhakti as part of their life, prasadam is absolute mandatory must. right? Because if, like I said, if we are a thief, how can we have peace of mind? And if we don't have peace of mind, how can we be happy? So we can't even think about happiness as well, right? So these two are very, very important. Please incorporate this if you are not already done. Prasadam, don't eat anything which is not offered to Krishna. At least, if it is too difficult, try with 1 meal, 2 meals, then 3 meals, right? Start with something, right? Second thing is Sankirtana Yagna. Do your japa on your beads. Apart from that, in the day, get everybody in the house together, right? Because they might not be chanting, they might not be coming to the class. They also need to get benefited, right? That is our response towards our family. So get the family together, and in front of altar, in front of Krishna's photo, Vishnu photo, whatever, just, or no photo also is okay. Chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in singing, right? Just sing the mantra, and one person will sing, the other person will follow, and that's it. That is Sankirtana Yagna. So do Sankirtana Yagna, do Prasada Yagna. That's it. These two itself, they're so powerful that we'll come out of the clutches of all this material bondage and suffering and all that, right? So it's very important that we do this. Verse 14. Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavah yagnad bhavati parjanyo yagna karma samudbhavah. All living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagna, and yagna is born of prescribed duties. So if we do our prescribed duties, if we do Sankirtana yagna, if we do food sacrifice, prasada yagna, then we actually, rains, there will be rains. Actually, once what happened in Hyderabad, there was a big drought, right? And many government and all that came to Prabhupada saying that, Prabhupada, you have so much of funds from the Western countries. Why don't you help us out by giving money, etc. Prabhupada said, you have water problem, right? We will solve your water problem. So Prabhupada then went with all devotees, and they did Sankirtana for a long time, and eventually it rained and that whole drought vanished, right? Because when we do sacrifice, actually, we should understand this. When we do sacrifice, all the seasons, see, today you look at outside, right? Like, all the seasons are haywire, right? Now it's not rainy season at all in Bangalore. It's already started raining, right? Everything is topsy-turvy, right? Because this is Kali Yuga. Now, but when actually, if the whole society, if society can get involved in Sankirtana Yagna, right, then all these abnormalities will get fixed. Of course, now then the reality is that everybody will not do this. So which means that those who do, they will get benefited. So if we do this yagna, irrespective of what is happening outside, etc., we will get whatever we require for our subsistence, maintenance, etc., etc. Krishna will provide. But actually, the whole society itself is expected to do this, because if we don't do, then that is why today we have drought. Somewhere there is excess water, somewhere there is less water. All these problems are because people are not doing yagna, are not doing sacrifice. That is why there's so much of chaos in the society. So we should do both these yagna, food yagna, prasadam yagna, and sankirtana yagna. Very simple. We can do this at our own homes, right? We don't need to spend any money for this. कर्म ब्रह्मोद्भवं विद्धि ब्रह्माक्षर समुद्भवं तस्मात् सर्वगतं ब्रह्मा नित्यं यज्ञ प्रतिष्ठितं. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directly manifested from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Consequently, all pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. So again, I mean, the same thing is being said, that if we engage in sacrifice, then the Lord is pleased, because the all-pervading transcendence, the all-pervading Supreme Lord is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. The Lord is pleased when we do sacrifice, right? And especially these two yagna in Kali Yuga is extremely, I mean, if you are not able to do anything else, just these two things, right? Offer food to Krishna and take as prasadam, and do Sankirtana at home. This will change the whole atmosphere in the house, especially, so much of negativity today with all this, bad news, etc. Everybody's minds are disturbed, and, So simple thing to reinstate positivity, happiness in the house, just chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, because it's so powerful. Because Supreme Lord is pleased. When Supreme Lord is pleased, we automatically become blissful, happy, right? So we should do this Sankirtana Yagna and food Yagna every day. It's so easy and simple. Just that some change in our food habits is required. Don't no onion garlic and no non-vegetarian. That's it. No other restriction, right? Anything else can be used cooked. Of course, tomorrow is Ekadashi. I sent okay, that was in Kannada. I sent a Kannada video into our Kannada group as to why we have to do Ekadashi. It's so important to do Ekadashi. Ekadashi, Upavas means Upavas. Upa means near, Vas means live, reside. So the idea of Ekadashi is that we reside closer to the Lord, close to Krishna, right? So don't focus too much on eating on Ekadashi, as little as possible. Based on your health condition, etc. You don't have to fast. If you can fast, then it's fine. If you can't fast, then eat non-grain food, but spend as much time in chanting, thinking about Krishna, reading from Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. So try to be near Krishna. If you chanting, you can increase your rounds on Ekadashi. The idea is that we please Krishna more and more on these very auspicious days, right? Which are Ekadashi is very dear to Krishna. Hmm? So we should do things that pleases Krishna, right? So Ekadashi is a great opportunity. At least, if you're not eating prasadam all the days, maybe at least start on Ekadashi days. On Ekadashi is because, you can easily live with fruits, juice, milk, even salad, etc., etc., once in 15 days. So you can offer everything to Krishna and eat. And then slowly add one meal every day, then do 2 meals, 3 meals, but don't eat outside food. While it might be tasty, it is just killing your consciousness, right? And if it kills our consciousness, then we act accordingly, then we have to suffer the reactions. It's a cycle. You can't just escape. So don't eat for sense gratification. That is what Krishna is saying. Don't eat for sense gratification. Eat to please Krishna. Cook to please Krishna. Do everything to please Krishna, and your life is sublime. Hmm? And here Krishna is concluding this topic saying, Evam pravartitam chakram nanu vartayati haya agayurindriya ramo mogam parthasa jivati. One who does not follow in human life this cycle of sacrifice certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. So if you are living for sense gratification, we are living a wasteful life, Krishna is saying. And we certainly lead a life full of sin. Now, if you live a life full of sin, what happens in our next life? Suffering. You don't want suffering? Cut out sins from your life. And eating food is also part of sin, like we just discussed, because we are killing those organisms. So better offer food to Krishna and eat. So every human being has to get engaged in this cycle of sacrifice. It's so important. Hmm? So Prabhupada is writing in the purport, the Mammonist philosophy of work very hard and enjoy sense gratification is condemned herein by the Lord. Therefore, for those who want to enjoy this material wealth, the above mentioned cycle of performing yagnas is absolutely necessary. One who does not follow such regulations is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more. By nature's law, this human form of life is especially meant for self-realization. There is no necessity for rigidly following the performance of prescribed yagnas for the transcendentalists who are above vice and virtue. But though anyway, yeah. So the yagna so even like prasadam food, right? It's not like we cook nicely, nice food, offer to Krishna and eat. Right? It's not like we are doing any stop eating or eat only like they do all kinds of diet, right? Today carb diet, this diet, that diet. We don't have any diet like that. We eat everything. And vegetarian, offer it to Krishna, happily consume it, right? So we can eat, we can enjoy our food, no problem. Then do Sankirtan and that's it. Okay, so I think we will stop here because yeah, next there is a change in topic. Yeah. So yeah, so we'll stop here for today. Okay. So basic, two very basic things we've discussed, not too many complicated stuff. So Prasadam and Sankirtana Yagna, and of course our ABCD, association with devotees once in a week, reading books, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Fortunately for English speaking people, these books are available online. You can go to vedabase.io. If you want a copy of Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, please let us know. We can arrange for it. Chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? And D is diet, which is offer food to Krishna and take as prasadam, right? So simple. Anybody has any questions? I can see that there are at least 3-4 devotees who are new here. So if I have said anything which you've not been able to understand or something, I'll be happy to clarify. Yeah, so we just finished verse 16 in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, any questions anybody has, we can discuss.